Welcome to the second part of HR Analytics Dashboard. In the previous part, we completed the Executive Summary Dashboard, and in this part, we are going to complete the remaining dashboards. We'll start with the Performance Dashboard. I have prepared the basic requirements of the dashboard. As we can see that the headings and all of the other boxes are in place for all of the dashboards. Even for other dashboards, I have prepared the filters as well as the buttons. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you the method how we can paste the buttons and adjust the buttons in the performance dashboards like we did it for the other pages. So what we are going to do is to simply select all of these and Control-C, Control-V. Whenever we are pasting the filters from one page to another, Power BI asks us if we want to sync the visuals or not. That means that any filter that has been selected on one page will be automatically selected and applied on the other pages. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sync it, and then I'm going to make some changes for the buttons. We'll start with the Executive Summary button. So how we are going to change it is we select the button and then we go to Style, Default, Fill, and we are going to bring in the normal style like this, okay? But the hover effect has to be included here. So what we are going to do, we say on hover, summary, hover, and then fit. So now we can see that the hover effect is present there. The second thing that we have to do is to set the action page navigation to Executive Summary. So this has been done, and now we have to adjust the performance button. So we click here. Here we can see that since the performance button was already navigating to this performance page, so Power BI automatically removes this destination and puts it as blank. So this is great. What we are going to do is to adjust the style. So here we go, we select default, and then we are going to go to fill and performance selected, and then fit. So this is fine. However, the hover effect has to be removed. We go again on hover, performance selected, which is here, and then fit. So now this has been adjusted. Following this method, we will adjust all of the other pages. So now we are prepared to start the performance dashboard with the visuals. Before we start building the dashboard, we also have to understand the purpose of each of the visuals. So this is the dashboard that is already built, and let's have a look at the visuals. This visual helps the user to understand how many employees are following in a particular performance rating. So here we can see the number of the employees and the performance rating for each of these columns. So we can understand how is the performance of our employees. The second one is the performance rating by employment duration. This visual helps the user to understand if there is any relationship between the performance rating and the number of years spent in the company. A lot of different numbers in the years. So what we have done is that we have created the groups of the years. So that is from 0 to 1 year, 1 to 5 years, and so on. This helps us to minimize the number of columns in the visual and make it look cleaner. The third one is the performance rating by department. This is basically the department group as we have seen in the other visuals. And what we do here is basically we are showing the department group, and within each department group, we are showing how many employees are falling in a particular performance rating. So here we can see that in the corporate department group, a lot of employees are falling in the performance 10. And then here we can see the further division by the departments. This visual shows us the relationship between a selected metric and the performance rating. So here we have this filter which can be selected to show 5 different metrics. And of course, this is according to the user's choice. We can increase or decrease the number of metrics. But here we can see, are the employees with high satisfaction score having a high performance rating? So since satisfaction score is on the x-axis and performance rating is on the y-axis, so here we can see that the R&D employees, they are having a higher satisfaction score and they are also having a higher performance rating. So we can choose any kind of metric and see the relationship. How does the performance rating affect the other metric or vice versa? So this really allows us to understand the reasons behind a certain performance rating. On the right hand side, we can see the performance rating trend. This is more or less the average performance rating that has been developing throughout the years. And then at the bottom right, we have the list of the employees that have the highest performance ratings and the lowest performance ratings. Now, what is the methodology that we are using here to rank the employees? We'll have a look at it once we start to make some calculated columns. The first visual that we are going to build is the headcount by performance rating. And we are going to bring in the clustered column chart. We are going to bring in the performance rating from the x-axis to the x-axis and the current headcount to the y-axis. So we have got this, and now we have to remove some of the basic features. Let's say the title, the x-axis and the y-axis, extra features like the values, title, and the grid lines. For x-axis, we will keep these values and we will make it slightly shorter. Last but not the least, we have to change the color. So here it is, performance rating. In this box, as we can see that we are focusing on the performance rating by employment duration and by department, whereas here it was headcount by performance rating. So for performance rating by employment duration, we need to create some employment duration groups. So for that, we are going to go to the table, fact employee details, rather we'll go to dimp employee. We have to calculate the employment duration in years. So what we are going to do is basically, we have to right click, new column, and then we are going to type in employment duration in years. Now it depends upon your reference date, whatever reference date you are using, but for simplicity, we'll take today minus dim employee date of joining, and we divide this by 365 in order to get the years. So here we are just getting a rough amount of years, and what we are going to do is to make sure that this is a whole number. So it becomes like this, and then we have to create an employment duration group. For that, we are going to create another column. We'll call it employment duration group. That's also in years. And that would be equal to, now we will use the switch function, true. What condition will be true? So I'm going to paste it and then I will quickly explain it. It's going to be this. So what we are doing is that we are taking this employment duration that we just created, and we are saying that if it is less than or equal to 1, then the group is 0 to 0, 1. And then 01 to 05 and so on. And in the end, if it's anything else than that, then we'll put other just for the safe side. Once we have done this, enter, and then we have the employment duration group. This is what we are going to use in our visual. We come back and then we are going to copy this. We paste it like this. Now on the x-axis, we are going to bring in the employment duration. That is the column that we created in dim employee. Bring it in x-axis, remove the current headcount, and then we will bring in the average performance rating. We will arrange it according to the employment duration in ascending order, So it's going to be something like this. Next one is performance rating by department, but here we are going to use department group. So what we are going to do is we will create a new visual, which will be a stacked bar chart. In the stacked bar chart, we will bring in the department group. So dim department group that comes on the y-axis, and then on the x-axis we are going to bring in current headcount. Now for the colors, we are going to bring in the performance rating. That performance rating is going to come from fact employee details. Performance rating will be the legend. What we are going to do is to arrange this and what if we just take the formatting from here? That does the work quite a bit. And then we are going to remove the title of the legend. We are going to put it on the top right, and then we have to remove the blanks because these are the employees that have joined in this selected year, that is in the year 2024. So what we are going to do is to put a filter where the performance rating is not blank. So it should be something like this. And what else do we need to do here is to set the colors and the y-axis so we can see the complete labels. So what we are going to do here is to increase the width. So what we are going to do here is to increase the width of the labels. So we'll keep on increasing the width till we are able to see. We can expand it like this, and we can put it to 40. We can also remove the padding. So if we go general properties, padding, and then we can remove it to 0. We can put this to 0 as well, put this to 0 as well, put this to 0 as well. To remove the labels because they don't look good, so we will remove this, and we can bring in the x-axis values, but we can remove the grid lines. That looks a bit neat. We can set the colors for different ratings. So I would suggest to look for a year that has the most number of variations. Let's say 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can set the colors for these. What we will do here is we'll go to the bars and 6, and here we will set for 6 it's this one. For 7 we will go slightly darker. For 8 we will go for this one, looks better. And then for 9 we will go for our color like this. For 10 we will go for the darkest color, let's say something like this. And now we have to set the tooltip. For the tooltip, what we are going to create is basically we will just copy this. We create a duplicate, and then we are going to say tooltip headcount by department. So we are going to name it performance by department, and we are going to delete this, and we will bring in performance. We will make it smaller, and instead of department by group we will bring in department. So it will be department name short. Okay, and we can also bring in the display values, which will be the data labels. Now what we are going to do is keep the headcount as it is, and come here, select general tooltips, report page. Page will be this one. So now we can see that our headcount of 80, it has 33 in engineering, 32 in production, and so on. And then the headcount of 47 divided into these 4 departments. Our next visual is a scatter plot where we are plotting the performance metric against a specific metric. Now that employee metric Now that specific metric has to be defined in a specific table, which we will build right now. So just follow along with me and then you will understand all of the steps that we will go through. So we go to enter data. This table, we will call it employee metric column. So the first column would be order and the second column would be name. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It depends on how many metrics you want to have. We are going to use 5 metrics. The first metric is satisfaction score. The second one is engagement score. The third one is hours per week, overtime, employee exits, and we load this. We go to transform data, and in this transform data we can see that we have got 5 new metrics. Now we need to have 5 measures. One is the average satisfaction score that we already have here. The other one is the average engagement score that we are going to create in engagement and training. So we right click, new measure, average engagement score equal to average of engagement score. It's very simple. Then the next one is average hours per week, which is going to be created in performance. Average hours per week, and we say average of work hours per week. The next one is average overtime in hours, which we are going to create in performance. Average overtime hours equal to average overtime hours. That's the fourth one. The last one is employee exits. We are going to create here. Employee exits is slightly complex, so we'll see how we have to build it. First, we will say var total headcount of current year. That would be calculate the count of employee ID in fact, and it should not be, there should not be any kind of termination. So the termination date is blank. The next variable that we are going to calculate is headcount of old hires. That will be calculate count of employee ID where the new hire is no. And var headcount of new hires equal to calculate count employee ID the new hire is equal to yes. Return will be headcount of old hires plus headcount of new hires minus total headcount of the current year. What we are doing here essentially is that we are taking the total headcount of the current year, and then we are counting the headcount of the old hires, the people who are existing from the previous years. And then we take the count of the new hires, the people who have been hired in this year, right? And then what we do is that we add the old hires plus the new hires, and then we subtract the total headcount of the current year to get the number of exits. The next step that we have to do is we have to create a filter. So we'll bring in the slicer or the filter, and then we bring in the employee metric that we created. So employee metric, we bring in the name, and we are going to make sure that it's only single select, something like this. And also we have to make sure that the name is according to the order that we set. Also, it has to be a drop down, and there shouldn't be any kind of slicer header. We make it shorter like this. So now the slicer is ready. We can also decrease the size of the text. So this looks better. I think this is 9. So let's make all of these as 9. This should be 9 as well. Okay. And this is also 9. So this is fine. Now we have to bring in the scatter plot, and before that there is one more measure that we have to create, and that is the employee metric name. We have to create 2 measures, so we'll go back to the measures table. We are working on performance, and we are going to create new measure. We will call it employee metric name, and we will say if has one value, that is basically returns true when there is only one value in the specified column, and that has to be the name, employee metric name, and the values would be the employee metric name. So that is this one. So what does the value do? So when a column name is given, returns a single column table of unique values. When a table name is given, returns a table with the same columns. So we have given a column name, so it will give us just one value, which will be the name, this one. So if there is only one value, give me the values. Otherwise, say select a metric and then close the brackets. So this is one measure. The other measure that we have to create is called employee metric. So we click on the measure, new measure, and I'm going to paste it here. We have this employee metric. Again, if the employee metric name, that is our column in the table that we created, if that is filtered, that means it's selected. So we have to look for one value here, switch selected value. So in the switch expression, this time we select like the selected value, which is basically the employee metric name, the value that we will be selecting here. And then if it's called satisfaction score, something like this, then it has to be average satisfaction score that is calculated at the back end, and that measure is given in our plot. Engagement score, now all of these labels, notice that these labels have to be the same as here, as this one. And then we have one more thing here. It's giving us errors. It's employee terminations, because our expression is not employee terminations, but it's employee exits. And then we tell this expression that by default, it has to give the average satisfaction score. Let's press enter. This thing is done. Now we will start building the scatter plot. The scatter plot here. We bring in the x-axis as the selected metric, and that selected metric will be driven from here. So that's why we have created the employee metric. So x-axis. And then we are going to bring in the y-axis, which is the performance rating. So here we can see that 95.9. When we change this, now it's 94.9. What we have to do more is we have to bring in some of the legends. So the legend would be department group that will differentiate between the colors. So we are going to go to dim department group in the legend. Now we can see that we have 3 different dots. And in order to show these department groups, we have to show the values, and the values would come from department. That would be department name short. So now we have much more meaning to our data. What I'm going to do is first we will expand it, and then we will make some changes. For example, we are going to remove the title. We are going to put the legend at the bottom. Bottom center is fine. We can remove the title, and then we are going to keep the grid lines this time. We are going to keep the performance rating, and we are going to change the colors, I would say. But what we can do here is we can show some of the values. So category labels. Here we can see the department names. This employee metric, this doesn't look good. So what we are going to do, firstly, we will rename it as department, call this as selected metric, and average performance rating could be called as performance rating. Legend could be department group, that's fine. In this, and this could be done in this format. Firstly, we will increase it to 8. Yeah, this looks better. For the selected metric, we are going to keep it as a decimal number with just 1 decimal place. We will now set the color for each of the categories. So let's say if we go for corporate, we are going to set the color for corporate as this one. And then for ops, we are going to set the color this one. And for productive and manufacturing, the color should be this. This is perhaps the color scheme that we were following in the previous one. So that's why we are keeping it like this. And last but not the least, we are going to turn off this title here at the x-axis like this. One thing we can do here is that we can set these labels slightly lighter. If we go to the category labels, we can perhaps choose this color. This looks better. And then the heading is remaining. So we'll copy it from here and we will call it relationship between satisfaction score and performance rating. Now, in order to have a dynamic title, we have to link this title with our filter. So for example, if I select engagement score, so this is not changing, but it can be changed. And that was the reason why we created those measures, employee metric. So what we are going to do here is that we are going to select this and we will add a value. We will call it employee metric name, satisfaction score. We'll save it and we are going to delete our static title. Now watch this, that this is satisfaction score. Once you select engagement score, this changes and the visual changes accordingly. So this one is also built now. Our next chart is the performance rating by trend, which is a very quick one. So we'll just bring in the line visual. We will resize it. You get something like this. You get here. Yep. And bring it like this. And what we are going to do is bring in the years. So we'll go to the calendar. We'll bring in the year for the x-axis. And then we will bring in the average performance rating from performance, average performance rating to y-axis. And we are going to do this. So now this one looks better. And we are going to remove title for y-axis. Yes. Even the values for grid lines, yes, we will remove them. The only thing we have to do is to put the data labels. Make sure that the data label values are 8, and we can set them for 1 decimal place, I would say. That looks better. And yes, this one is done as well. The last visual that we have to build is the top and bottom performers according to performance rating. And that has to be a simple table, which will have the ID, name, department, title, and the rating. We'll start building that by creating a table. Here we will bring some of the very basic columns. That would be the employee ID, full name, department, and title. And then we will have the rating, which will come from fact employee details. Now we are going to arrange it in the descending order, and we are going to rename the columns ID. Let's call it name, department, title, and rating. Now what we will do is we just need to have the top 5. Now there could be a tie, and then we'll see how we can break that tie as much as possible. Now there could be a lot of different methodologies, but we'll just try one methodology that I thought of. However, you can have any kind of methodology that is available in the company. So for the rating, what we will do is that we will have the bars. So we go to the cell elements, we go to rating, and then we are going to bring in data bars. We are not going to have this color, so we are going to choose our default color like this. We are going to remove the horizontal grid lines and the values. Here we are going to use the white color, and we are going to remove the totals as well. So we are going to remove the totals. Now we are going to look at the methodology by which we can break the ties as much as possible. So we'll go to the table. Here we are going to add 2 columns. So the first column is going to be mandatory trainings remaining. So we click on new column and mandatory trainings remaining, which will be equal to mandatory trainings assigned minus mandatory trainings completed. And then we are going to add another column that is going to be ranking by rating. So we right click, new column, and this is ranking by rating, where we are basically saying that if the hire date year is equal to the reporting year, then we don't have to calculate the rating, which does make sense because we are not going to rate any employees that have been hired in the current year. But then we are calculating the ranking by giving the full weight to the performance rating, then 100th of a weight to the satisfaction score, 1/10,000th of a weight to engagement score, and mandatory trainings remaining. This is just a sample of creating a weight. However, you can use any kind of example or any kind of calculation to calculate the ranking by rating. Press enter, and then it has to be a decimal number. So when we scroll down, we can see that there are different ratings. So we are going to see how it gets calculated. So here we can see that we still have some tie, but it's better than before. So we will clear the sort and we'll go back here. Next, what we are going to do is to set the filters, and we are going to bring in ranking by rating, top 5, and max ranking by rating. So we are going to bring in this thing and maximum ranking by rating, apply filter. Now we can see here that there are 10 employees that have some kind of tie, but these are the employees that can be called as the top 5 employees. Make it look like this, and then we will copy it, paste it here, and we are going to say this time it's not going to be top 5, but it has to be bottom 5. So this time it's 8. Now we have to make sure that these columns, they are properly aligned. Can also expand it slightly to have much more width. Another thing here, what we can do is to set the width of this column equal to 10 or slightly greater than 10. So we can see the difference between 10 and 8. Right now, we do not see that kind of difference. So what we can do here is that we go to visualization, cell elements, data bars, and here we can set the maximum value. So we can set it to, let's say, 11. So now we have this value, and we can do the same with this. So now we see the difference between 10 and 8. So this looks good. The next dashboard that we are going to build is about the compensation of the employees. So the first visual is about the compensation distribution by department. This is a slightly different visual where we are showing the distribution and how the compensation varies in a particular department. So if we maximize this, we can see that there's a minimum salary. This is the first quartile, the second quartile, third quartile, and then this is the fourth quartile. So here we can see that we have a median as well, and then we also have an average. So that gives us the idea about the average salary in a particular department, as well as the distribution of the salaries among the employees. The second visual here, it's about the top job titles by compensation. So we can see what are the highly paid jobs in the company. The third one is the bonus to salary ratio by department. It shows us which departments are giving the highest bonuses as compared to the salary. And then again, this is based on the department group. And when we bring our mouse pointer here, we can have a look at the department distribution. Then we have the total compensation breakdown by department. So here we can see that there's a base salary, there's a bonus, and then there could be any benefits that we can have in our data set. Another one here we have is the compensation by satisfaction score and the retention rate. So we see the relationship between the satisfaction score and the compensation. It means that we see a relationship if the higher compensation results in a higher satisfaction score, and similar is the scatter plot for the retention rate. The last visual is about the average cost per hire by department. So here we are seeing which department has the highest average cost per hire and if the retention rate for that particular department is also high. So that helps us to understand if the average cost is really worth it when we look at the retention rate. We will now start building the compensation distribution by department. So what we have to do here is to bring in the line and stacked column chart. And then we have to create some measures. So first we will create the measures and then we will drag them into this chart. We right click on compensation, new measure. So firstly we will create total compensation average, median, maximum, minimum, percentile 25 and percentile 75. For total compensation we need to create a total compensation column first, and then we can start calculating the average and the other measures. So we go to the column in the table fact employee details and right click, new column. We say total compensation equal to base salary plus bonus. Enter. Now we have to go back, right click on compensation, new measure, and total compensation average of total compensation, new measure, total compensation maximum of total compensation, total minimum of total compensation, then the median, right click, new measure, total compensation median, compensation. Now we create percentile 25 and percentile 75. So total compensation percentile 25, percentile inclusive percentile, and we will say compensation, and we tell it 0.25. That is there, and then we create 75 in a similar fashion. Go there, copy this, 75, enter. So we have this, and now we can start building the visual. So firstly we will bring in the department group as the x-axis, and then we have to bring in the measures for the line y-axis. So how we are going to build it is, first we will build the minimum, maximum, median and average, and upon that we will start building the columns. We will bring in minimum, maximum and median, and here we can see that we have the minimum value, the median value and the maximum value. We'll do the basic cleanup. Remove the title, the legend, we'll keep it for now. We will remove the x-axis, title, And we will remove the y-axis title as well. Y-axis title is removed. And now we will convert these lines into dots. How we can do this is basically we turn on the markers for all of the lines and we reduce the width to 0. That converts that to markers. So now we have a minimum, median, and maximum. What we are going to do is to make their labels short and meaningful. Like this. And then what we are going to do is to show these maximum and minimum as horizontal bars. So we go to format the visual, markers, and we will select maximum, put it as a bar, and we increase it to 10. So that's a solid line, and we convert this color into this one, which matches with our color theme. We do the same with the minimum, 10, and for the median, and let's convert the color to purple, and we will make this shape as diamond. Now we are going to bring in the average. We do the same. Now we have these bars, circles, and diamonds. We need a vertical bar which connects the minimum and the maximum. For that, what we need to do, and here we can see that the minimum and maximum, they have changed the colors. So I think we just need to be careful about these colors. We'll go back, and minimum, we will fix this color again, maximum. So now this is fine. And then for the vertical bars, we'll go to error bars. For maximum, we will put total compensation maximum as the upper bound and the total compensation minimum as the lower bound. We turn it on and we have the vertical bar enabled here as well. Now what we need to do is to show the box plot sections for the third quartile and the second quartile, which is from 25 to 50 and 50 to 75. For that, we need to create two measures. So we will right click here, new measure, and we will say total compensation IQR 50 to 75, let's say, equal to total compensation percentile 75 minus total compensation median. This is one measure, and then we copy it, we create another measure, which will be this, but this time it's going to be 25 to 50, and this goes here, minus this, and this. Here we go. So this is another measure created. So to bring in the column axis, we will bring in three measures. The first one is the 25 percentile. That basically forms the lower bar, but this has to disappear. Upon that, we will put 25 to 50, which is the Q2, and then we will put 50 to 75, which is Q3. Now this is almost done. What we have to do is to make this disappear. The dark blue columns, we will go there, and columns, we will select this total compensation percentile 25, and we will make its transparency to 0. There we have it. Now what we need to do is to remove all of these. So the second one is called Q2, third one is called Q3. I would say that setting the legend and the colors should be the last step, because we see that the colors were resetting again and again. So here we can go to the markers, and we have to make sure that the markers are as we want. So median, that is purple, but average has also become purple. So we can convert it to light blue. And here we can see Q2 is like this. So I would suggest that we go to columns, select Q2 and choose a lighter colors. Yeah, this looks better. And for Q3, we can go for a darker color, something like this. But here we see that the colors are different and these markers are different. The reason is that our line color is not matching the marker color. So let's revisit it. What we will do is that we look at the markers, and for average we have this blue. We go there. For average, we have to make sure that we have the same color. Now this is fine. Now if we look at the median, this is purple. So we will go to median and we will make sure that we select this. Now this is fine. And then Q2, Q3, this is okay. Average, min and max, this should be dark blue or this kind of blue as well. So we go to min and we select this color. We go to max, we select this color. Here we make sure that for min it's this color and for max it's this color. So our box plot is ready. I would suggest that we can convert these values on the y-axis to thousands and 0 decimal places. We go to the error bars and we set the color of the bar with this one. Yeah, this looks better. Okay, now this is done. Next up is the bar chart with job titles by compensation. So we are going to take a clustered bar chart, place it here, and then we are going to bring in the job title. So it should come from here. So we'll simply bring in this one and we have the total compensation average. Now here we know that the job titles of CIO and CEO are always going to be the highest paid jobs. So we have this choice that we can filter out those job titles. The way we can remove that is basically we select all and then we deselect these ones. Now we will do the basic cleanup. We want to bring in around 8 bars. So we can go to general, properties, padding, and we can reduce it to 0. Now one thing we can do here is we can bring in the job title again as a filter, and we can say that we want 8 by average compensation. Apply filter. So now we have the top 8 jobs in the visual. We can set the color to the default color. The job titles are not completely visible, so we have the choice in case we go to the y-axis and we increase the width to ensure that it's there. Next visual is the bonus to salary ratio by department. So what we are going to do is to copy this visual because it has all the formatting set and increase the height just a bit and make sure that there are no filters here. Okay, remove the job title and bring in the department group. Yes, department group. and we remove the total compensation average. We bring in bonus to salary ratio, bonus to salary ratio, divide sum of bonus by sum of base salary, 0. This is it. Convert that to a percentage. Just one decimal place should be enough. Bonus to salary ratio. And now we are going to bring in the tooltip. So we select this tooltip, duplicate, bonus to salary by department, overall ratio. This has to be bonus to salary by department. Here we keep the department and we bring in the bonus to salary ratio. So now we go back to compensation, we click here, general, tooltips, page will be bonus to salary by department. So here we have it. One more thing I would like to add here is the average line for the ratio. So I would click here, select this constant line on FX measures compensation bonus to salary ratio. Okay, here we have this one, and I would like to have the transparency 0, and what I would like to have here is the data labels should be inside. Yeah, that's better. And I would like to have these as well. I think inside they look better. These ones as well. Yes. And we bring the mouse pointer here to see how it looks. So there is no, can remove the job title here. Yeah, this is better now. The next visual that we are going to build is the total compensation breakdown by department, and we are going to copy this visual first. Increase the size, and now what we have to do is to keep this department group, and this time we are going to bring in the total compensation in the form of base salary and the bonus. So we look for the base salary, this one, and then the bonus, but it has to be this chart. So this one does make sense, but we have to make some changes. So for example, we will say base salary, bonus, and we will change the colors. For base salary, we'll go with our default color. For the bonus, we are going to go for this one. I noticed something, it should be like this. The legend should be on the right hand side, top right. Yes, this looks better. We are going to set this, so we'll put this as currency and 0. And we will do the same for bonus, currency and 0. This looks much better. So we can place the data labels in the center, and now we have to bring in the tooltip. So duplicate, compensation breakdown. Be better. We can bring in compensation, this one, Control C. Control V, bit like this, make it bigger. And instead of department, we're going to use department name short, total compensation. Now this number has to be the total compensation. That means that the sum of the compensation of all of the employees, not the average that we are discussing here. So we are going to create one more measure where we say total compensation equal to sum total compensation. We can bring this total compensation. Now the callout value can be but a currency with 0 decimal places. Yeah, this looks better. Go back to compensation, and this tooltip, this time it's going to be compensation breakdown. So in case if I want to see this 4.5 million, this is 2.3 and 2.2. I think we can include 1 decimal place. So we go back and we include 1 decimal place. Okay, 4.9. Next up, we have compensation by satisfaction score and retention rate. Pretty straightforward graphs. They are going to be scatter plots because we are going to see the relationship between the satisfaction score and the compensation. We are going to bring in one scatter plot, and the x-axis, it's going to be average compensation, average. The y-axis is going to be satisfaction score. Average satisfaction score is going to come from here. We are going to show the legend by department group. So the colors are differentiated by department group, and the number of dots are shown by the department. So we are going to bring in the department name short. Now let's do a cleanup, and then we'll see the clear picture. And we have to set the colors. So for the markers, we have to name these. So let's go in department, average compensation, satisfaction score. We copy this, we paste it, and the satisfaction score, this has to be removed, and we have to bring in the retention rate. We bring in retention rate, and there we go. The next visual is the average cost hire by department. That is a simple table visual with some color coding. So we are going to bring in a table. It has to be department. Then it has to be average cost per hire, and in this compensation, new measure, average cost per hire, average cost per hire, this one. And then we have to bring in the columns average cost per hire. This has to be currency but with 0 decimal places. We can bring in the retention rate. So we have to bring in retention rate. Start doing some cleanup. Department, let's make it average cost per hire, retention rate. To some values, white, yes, grid lines, none. Yep, we don't need the total, so totals turned off. And then we have to include the color coding. So we'll go here and we'll go to the cell elements, then retention rate, background color, can go for white. Yeah, that looks better. And then for the average cost per hire, something like this. Then we can go for white. Yes, so this is done as well. One thing I forgot is to create a tooltip for this chart, because this chart, even if it's maximized, it doesn't add a lot of value, right? So what we can do here is we can create a tooltip that will give us the division by the department and not the department groups. So what we are going to do here is we are going to use this one, duplicate, tooltip, compensation, let's call it distribution. We click on this, Control C, Control V. Yeah, instead of the department group, we are going to bring in the department name short. We call it department. We'll remove this and we'll maximize this like this. Yeah, and then once we go here and we want to see the compensation, now we are able to see it in a better way. In the next part, we are going to do the employee turnover, engagement and training, and employee details, which will be quick enough because now we have most of the expressions already written and we know how we are going to set up the pages. The next part will be coming very soon. Thank you.